What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. The self-proclaimed, quote, greatest woman of all times, in my Muhammad Ali voice, Claressa Shields out of Flint, Michigan. Lost a razor thin, close, split decision to Abigail Montez, who's going to gain in popularity after this win over Shields. A lot of people didn't know who the hell she was going into this fight, but she's going to have her name going forward now, and she was able to win the fight. She knew what time it was when they were standing up. She wasn't trying to throw them hands with Claressa at all. She was on the back foot, moving around, and basically trying to stay out of harm's way when they was standing up. But she was catching right hands, and she got rocked in that fight. But she was able to weather the storm, give her credit. And then she was able to use Claressa Shields' strength against her. She was able to have an answer to the question that Claressa Shields posed toward her. As Claressa Shields threw a, to me, kind of like a wild right hand. A real wild right hand. You know, when you look at her in the boxing ring, she throws very straight, accurate punches. But she kind of threw like a looping, wide right hand. And you know, you can see it coming from a mile away. And Abigail was able to duck that, and then she went in. She went in on her. She was able to grab her and take her to the ground. And that was the beginning of the end for Claressa Shields. And she was able to have her way. Claressa did a good job of kind of stifling her early on when she was on the ground, but you could see what was about to happen as she was able to maneuver and basically get on top of Claressa Shields in a very dominating way. And she basically had two legs wrapped around Claressa Shields' waist, and she was just sitting on her like a chair, and then she was just wailing on her. And that was the difference in the fight. Because when you take your opponent to the ground in MMA, that's equivalent to knocking down your opponent in boxing. You know, when you outpunch your opponent per round, it's a 10-9 round. But when you knock down your opponent in a round, it's a 10-8 round. And I think they take that into account in a similar fashion in MMA when you take your opponent to the ground. You don't want to be on the ground because you could be doing good work. You could be hitting them with combinations and looking good standing up. But when you get taken to the ground, that pretty much will stifle all the things that you accomplished up to that point. So that's one thing she's going to have to learn, man. She's going to have to get better on the ground game. But with all in all, man, I don't think it was nothing to be ashamed of. You got all these people out there saying that she needs to eat some humble pie and all that because she's braggadocious and she's self-confident about herself. They say she needs to be humble. But they said the same thing about Muhammad Ali. They said the same thing about Floyd Mayweather Jr. And they never was able to have their day in the sunshine with Floyd Mayweather Jr. because he never lost. You know what I'm saying? They was able to, at times, have it with Muhammad Ali. You know, when he lost to Joe Frazier, they was able to say, oh, there you go, he got beat. Run off at the mouth, talked all that noise. They was able to say that when he lost to Ken Norton. Oh, yeah, look at him. Got his jaw broke. Yeah, running off at the mouth, the Louisville lip. You know, they was able to say that. You know. When he lost to Leon Spinks. Yeah, look at him. Muhammad Ali. Even though at that time he was a world figure. And he had more people that loved him than hated him back then. But they still had some of them war mongerers, them war haters. You know, they wanted him to serve. And he said he had no qualm with the Viet Cong. They was coming out the woodworks when he lost to Leon Spinks. Yeah, yo, he need to retire. He got beat by a novice, a boxing novice. What, he had like 7 fights? Leon Spinks beat him, shut him up. Leon, the Spinks jinx, and all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So they was able to have their day in court on Muhammad Ali a little bit. But when it's all said and done, Muhammad Ali went down in the history books as the greatest of all time. And when you talk about the greatest fighters of all time, it's only 2 people you're talking about that's sitting at the head of the table, and that's Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson. That's neither here nor there. Claressa came up short, and Jake Paul, the biggest troll in the world, was waiting on this moment, was laying in the cut, hoping that Claressa Shields would come up shorter than a midget on her knees. And he came out with full guns a-blazing, Basically said, look what happened. Yeah, you got beat. You got beat. You need to humble yourself, Claressa. The GOAT ain't you. The GOAT really is Amanda Serrano. She's 2-0 in MMA, basically trolling Claressa Shields. Because it all started back in the pre-fight press conference for a second MMA fight against Montez when a reporter asked Claressa Shields what she considered being on Jake Paul MMA. My bad, Jake Paul's undercard. And Claressa Shields said, don't you ever disrespect me. I will never, ever be on Jake Paul's undercard. I am a multiple-time world champion. My resume speaks for itself. Jake Paul is a joke. What him and Tyron Woodley did, all you need to do is put a 10 over it because it wasn't nothing but a circus. Never be a part of that. Jake Paul did not take kindly to those words. And she basically said, look, I got more power than Jake Paul. I got more speed than Jake Paul. Only thing that Jake Paul had that I don't have is a penis. I will whoop Jake Paul ass. That's what she said. She went in on Jake Paul, and Jake Paul was looking to respond, and he got his moment to respond last night in response to Claressa T-Rex Shields. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. I just want to do a quick video about it, but a lot of people saying that this could hurt Claressa Shields in boxing, but boxing and MMA is two different sports. You know, it's just like tennis and ping pong. It ain't the same thing. You know, you got a paddle and you got a net, but it ain't the greatest tennis player couldn't beat the greatest ping pong player if they played. You know what I'm saying? It's two different sports. And the ping pong player go on there and play the tennis player on the court. Whoever's the #1 ping pong player, they play Novak Djokovic on the tennis court, they would get smoked. Same thing with Novak Djokovic. If he would play the #1 ping pong player, he would get smoked. That's the same thing you got to look at when you're talking about boxing and MMA. You know, they're combat sports, but they're very, very different. You know, you got to have a ground game. You got to be able to wrestle. You got to be able to do jiu-jitsu. You got a lot of different things that you are dealing with in the MMA cage that you don't have to deal with in that boxing. Boxing ring, you know, all you got to do is worry about them hands. Stuff like that. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Let me know your thoughts about Jake Paul going in on Claressa T-Rex Shields. You think it was justified, or you think it was a guy going in on female? Now we got these Me Too movements going on, you know, and they stand up for women. They feel it's getting misused and abused by men, particularly in the workplace, particularly in corporate America, and particularly in the world that we live in today. Let me know your thoughts about that, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend, and I holla.